So I want to kind of change direction here and get into the next part of what we have been looking at as we look through Israel and in the modern sense. Do they have any claim to the land? Are they his people? That is something that for some reason, sadly, it is something that is still being debated by churches when it really shouldn't be. And so let's turn to Genesis chapter 12, and I want to look at something that is there, and let's make sure we set some things in place. In chapter 12 of Genesis, verses 1 to 3, Abraham has never even seen the land, nor has he heard of it. The land is never even mentioned. It is just told to us that there is a promise that through you the nations will be blessed. Now, it's going to be reaffirmed, and it'll take us a few weeks to get there. Paul makes mention of the promise that you see in chapter 12 here, and he reaffirms it by looking at chapter 22 when Isaac was to be offered by Abraham. He was willing to offer Isaac, interestingly enough, at what is modern-day Jerusalem. So Mount Moriah is what it's known as. So Paul will be able to make mention of the person through whom salvation comes is a singular seed, and that salvation only comes through him. Now, when Abraham first hears this, Abram at the time, he's not in the land. He's in Haran. So he has not been, he has not seen the land. He hasn't even really stopped to go in that direction. God just makes the initial promise, through you the nations will be blessed. And so the nations, plural, the families of God, that's well outside of Israel. It's well outside of the Jewish people. It's well outside the people of the law. It's all the families of humanity. That's what he's trying to say. There's a blessing that will come through you that will be to Jew and Gentile alike. He doesn't say it that way. He just says the families of the earth, the families of man, the generations of mankind. So that's a singular promise given to him at a completely different place. Now, look at in chapter 13, we get chapter 13, verse 14, we get this. So the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift your eyes and now look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land that you can see, I give to you and to your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, so then would your descendants be numbered. Arise, walk through the land, through its length, its width, and I will give it to you. And then Abram moved his tent, and he went and he dwelt at the terebinth trees at Mamre, which are in Hebron, and he built an altar there to the Lord. Now, that is to the south of Jerusalem, modern day. But let's take a look here. What has changed? The change is, from chapter 12, verses 1 to 3, it's the promise that through you, humanity will be blessed. Here, he makes another dimension to it. Now that he is in the land, he says, I'm going to give this to you, this land, and also to your descendants after you. But he's going to narrow this down quite a bit as we look through this. I want to make sure that we understand that there is a promise in a different way, because now it includes land and it includes descendants. And we're going to see that God will define who those descendants are. So this, you can say, is separate, because the blessing that's going to come is going to be in this second part, starting here at chapter 13 and into chapter 15, there is going to be a promise that entails the land as well. And I want to do this as a separate topic altogether. So it keeps being something that we take our time with, but I want to be able to get it together piece by piece by piece, and then we can connect it all together. You can watch all the shorts on this at the end of it, because we're going to be making them into shorts. You can put them all together and you could get the details of it. First and foremost, first promise, he's 75 years old. He's never seen the land. He is not in Canaan. He is not in Israel. He is in a completely different place. He is in modern day, what is in the area around Iraq, Syria, all that area. He's way back where he grew up. That's where all that stuff took place, sojourning in this direction. But certainly not in chapter 12 do you have any even hint that land is part of it. Here is where you hear the first time that God says land and people. It's a different promise at a different time for a different reason entirely. So Will Jesus ultimately come through Abraham's line? Sure. Abraham to Isaac, Isaac to Jacob, Jacob's sons, one of whom was Judah, and through Judah comes Jesus the Messiah, but he's the Messiah of all mankind, not the Jews alone. So he's to all who would come to know him. That's why it's important that we understand. First promise, there is a plural promise to the nations, mankind. Chapter 13 now is a separate thing. Now here's what I want to do among you and your descendants and the land in which you now dwell. And that's going to be a separate a promise that we will develop a little bit more as we go on next week as we get into chapter 15, because more time transpires by chapter 15 and that promise is still not fulfilled. So he knows that there are supposed to be descendants, not because of chapter 12 verses 1 to 3. He just knows that something is going to happen through him. But he doesn't know anything about descendants. That happens at chapter 13, and it entails the land. So part 1, the promise to the nations. Part 2, a new promise that is based upon him and children not yet born to him that they will dwell in a particular land. Hugely important because of all the stuff that's being debated here. Next study that we do, which will be this coming Monday as we're going through the book of Isaiah, we're going to take a look at chapter 15, where more definition gets added to who this person is and what is going to be the actual fulfillment of that promise of who's the child and how is that going to work. It'll take us probably another couple of weeks to get through that. But again, I want to be very careful to do this concisely, piece by piece, rather than all in one volume, so that we can kind of put it together, make our notes, and be able to articulate this to the world that just frankly doesn't see it. They get their sound bites from whoever it is that's making a case against Israel and not taking the scriptures at what it says at face value. So that's why I want to do it bite-size, bit by bit, and we'll go through this whole thing until we have it completed. So with that, we will pick up on Monday with our continued study through the promises through Abram and how it reacts as far as the world is concerned and how it reacts as far as Israel is concerned. They're two separate things. So we will develop that a little bit more, and we will complete Matthew chapter 7 next week. So questions about that, please reach out to me through the ministry's website. Again, oldpaththeology.net is the website.